Hey Fenners, welcome back to This Isn't Fenny Anymore. My name's Eric, and today we're going to be discussing the first clue in Forrest Fenn's poem, Begin Where Warm Waters Halt. There's countless theories that are out there and how people have tried to weld their ideas of what it could be into the clue. And instead of looking at maps today, what we're going to do is just look at definitions. The definition of the words in this first line of the second stanza, rather than trying to focus on one answer, which is where a lot of us get hung up. And instead of focusing on one answer, is focusing on all possibilities. In math, they would call these permutations, right? You roll 3 dice, all the possible combinations of those 3 dice. So today we're going to focus on these 3 key words in this first clue, begin where warm waters halt. So the definition for warm, we'll go over definitions and synonyms. So there are 2 definitions where warm is used as an adjective. It's of or at a fairly or comfortably high temperature. Those synonyms for that are balmy, sultry, hot, mild, temperate, pleasant, agreeable, sunny, bright, and fine. Those are definitions for warm being used as a temperature. Second definition of warm is having, showing, or expressive of enthusiasm, affection, or kindness, which we tend, when we look at this clue, I know I have never looked at it in this way, thinking of warm in a loving manner. Here's some synonyms for that: friendly, affable, amiable, cordial, kind, kindly, pleasant, sympathetic, affectionate, warm-hearted, good-natured, loving, tender, fond. Some of those that stuck out to me: pleasant, loving, friendly. Think about friendly waters and what that could mean, or pleasant waters and what that could mean. Just looking at that, so there's 2 directions you can go with the word warm. One being, focus on hot or temperate, agreeable, balmy, but also friendly or pleasant. And then we move into waters, and this is super, super, super important. I think the word waters is the most important word in the entire poem, because the word waters is it's not an archaic word, but it's a very unique word, right? It's a word that doesn't get used often because water is a non-countable noun. And a non-countable noun meaning that if you add more to it, it doesn't make it a plural, right? 10 ounces of water plus 10 ounces of water equals 20 ounces of water. It's not 20 ounces of waters. I think this is super important because if Forrest meant where warm water halts, he would have said that. This is a very special word, waters. So here are the few times that you hear it used. Any body of sea or seas regarded as sharing some common quality. Example, Irish territorial waters, uncharted tropical waters. Also, second definition, a body of water such as a sea or a river, the stormy waters of a bay. Probably the only time I've ever really heard it used on a cruise, and you enter international waters, right? When you enter out where you can finally, 18-year-olds can gamble and whatever you want to do. Tends to only be regarded to a body of water. I don't know if I'd necessarily call a stream a body of water. Typically in reference to a sea, or maybe a large lake, a large river, something that is very distinct, right? It's super important that we focus on that word waters and why he did not choose to use the word water. And lastly, the word halt means to bring or come to an abrupt stop, discontinue or terminate. Some synonyms: deadlock, gridlock, impasse, standoff, cease, close down, closure, discontinuation, end, expiration, finish, shut down, shut off, stoppage, termination. So you can see how very, very final that word halt is. So given those 3 words, let's go into every definition I could come up with that actually fits those 3 words. Warm waters halt. I came up with 4. So a hot temperature body of water coming to a complete stop. There are a lot of things that would fit into that. The edge of a hot spring, a geyser, shooting out into a cold atmosphere and coming to a complete stop. The border or edge of an area of well-known warm water, the waters of Yellowstone, right? A border or edge of a well-known body of warm water or an area known for warm waters, right? Yellowstone might fit that definition. So would a more localized answer for that if there were a particular warm lake that was well known for that, the edge of that lake. The west end of Highway 212. This is a little more, maybe a bit more of a stretch, but definitely more exact of an answer. The west end of Highway 212, the boiling point of water, where it literally goes from hot water to gas vapor, right? Where warm water actually halts and becomes vapor. Highway happens to end in Yellowstone. Happens to terminate, the west end of it terminates at the Grand Loop in Yellowstone. Lastly, kind of thinking a different way about the word warm. Border or edge of a fond or lovely body of water. A friendly body of water. Something, maybe a very scenic body of water. You think of the lake in the middle of Yellowstone National Park and, the memories that might have to someone, or, a particular lake that he was very fond of growing up, mentioned in the book. Maybe not temperature warm, but maybe warm in a different way. We have to consider that a possibility. Again, what it cannot be is where a warm water river leads into a colder river, because that would not be halting, right? When you think about the termination, because if a warm river goes into a cold river, they kind of just flow together, and one warms up slightly, one cools down slightly. It's a gradual change rather than an abrupt termination or finish. I don't know if it could be a waterfall, as that wouldn't necessarily be water halting. That would be water changing direction, right? It wouldn't necessarily be the termination of that water. It's just going down to a lower elevation. It could be, by definition, a geyser, as warm water expelling into the cold rocky temperatures would be where it halts. That's a bit of a stretch. As for some well-discussed theories that are more intense answers to this riddle, one of which would be like the Tears at a Vietnam War Memorial. Does not fit with any of the definitions of waters. Fits with water, but if Fenn meant water, he would have said water. He said specifically waters, and tears, by no definition ever, would be called waters. It just can't be, by that definition. The Tears at a War Memorial cannot be waters. It's water. And as a non-countable noun, it doesn't matter how many tears might be found at a war memorial, it's water. It's not waters, because it's not a body of water. Fishing regulations in New Mexico is another theory that's often posed, and I think this could very well fit. In fact, some of the forums I've read, the term warm waters is actually used. That's actually used, warm waters, and it's a place where brown trout do not like to go. They swim in cold water. In relation to brown trout or trout in general, choose to be in waters of 70 degrees or cooler. Most species choose 65 degrees or cooler. Since, again, what we've learned from Forrest is no one knows his thoughts but him, it's very difficult to focus on one solution to this riddle, which only Forrest knows for sure. I mean, there's so many possible answers. It's important that we focus on the ones that actually fit within the bounds of this definition. We eliminate what just cannot be true. We'll eventually get into a map where we highlight all the possible places where I think a 100-mile diameter circle up here and a 75-mile diameter circle down here. And you can head to my last video to go over why there's an overwhelmingly high possibility it is one of those two circles. Why you think, well, that narrows it down. I did some math. It's still like 12,000 square miles. You certainly eliminate a lot of area, but not enough. So we will enlarge these areas on a map and then go over all the possibilities of where warm waters halt could be, draw a radius around each of those answers to where too far to walk would be, and whether that's 2 miles, 5 miles, 10 miles, 20 miles. The more liberal, the more area is going to be within that circle, and see, depending on how liberal we get with each of those, how many homes of brown fit within those parameters, right? And only then can we make a list of every possible solution to clue 1, 2, and 3. The beginning where warm waters halt, too far to walk, put in the home of brown. There's only so many possibilities that could be rendered in these two smaller dissected circles. I'd like to look at this from a very different perspective than what other people have done. I want to be very analytical with this first. And then and only then can we get into coming up with possible solves to clues 1, 2, and 3. Remember why this is important. There's one of the interviews, I think it was the Moby Dickens interview, where Forrest asked the crowd to define the word several. I never really thought about that before. Several, a handful, a lot. And he said, no, it means more than two, but not many more than two. And sure enough, that's the actual definition. More than two, not many more than two. There is no mistake. Every word in this poem is by divine design and by his own definition, put in there by an architect. If you're trying to mold your solve into a version of the definition of a word that does not exist, you're wasting your time. And again, I don't have the treasure, so I can't tell you for sure that you're wrong, but I can tell you with a degree of confidence that based on the definitions of the words that he built into this poem, most of the solves that people are coming up with are not correct places to start. And thus, if you don't know where warm waters halt, in his words, you should not waste your money. I hope you appreciate this video as we dissected some of these words. The next video, we're actually going to be highlighting possibilities for where warm waters halt, compiling a list of those places, exhausting every possibility, leaving no stone unturned, localize the possibilities so much that it'll be impossible for someone not to get lucky enough. You know, the harder we work, the luckier we get. If you like this video, please give me a huge like. If you didn't like this video, please give me a dislike. Be a man or woman about it and tell me why you didn't like it. And I'll do better to make my content better in the future. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. This is going to be an intense summer for a lot of people, me especially. I want to make sure that I do everything I can to put myself in the best possible situation to find this box of life-changing gold. Again, thank you guys so much for watching. Have a great day.